Some killers hunt in shadows. Some hide behind silence. But Patrick Wayne Kearney was a monster living in plain sight. A polite neighbor, a quiet man. And behind that calm face lived a nightmare waiting to wake up. Today, you will hear the story of a man whose darkness swallowed Southern California. This is not just a crime story. This is pure horror. Patrick was born in 1939, a frail and sickly child in a world that seemed determined to break him. At school, he was the easy target, the one kids mocked and humiliated without a second thought. Day after day, the taunts chipped away at him, and inside his quiet exterior, something dark began to grow. As he grew older, that darkness twisted into obsession. It started small, with helpless animals. He harmed them, watched them suffer, and in their final moments, he found his first taste of control. It was a terrifying power, a way to silence the noise of his own weakness. He tried to escape himself by joining the military, hoping the structure and discipline would offer a new identity. But even in uniform, the loneliness and hidden rage continued to boil just beneath the surface, silently waiting for a release. The darkness he carried was patient. It knew its time would come. That time arrived in 1970. On a lonely highway under the cloak of night, a young man looking for a ride made a fatal mistake. He accepted a lift from Patrick Kearney. That night, the years of suppressed rage, the fantasies of control, all came crashing into reality. Patrick unleashed the demon that had been living inside him for so long. The young man never returned home, and in the aftermath, Patrick felt something terrifyingly new. He felt power, a cold, absolute power over another human being, and he learned that power is a hunger that only grows stronger with every feeding. The monster was finally awake. Patrick had a method. It was cold, silent, and horrifically calculated. He would pick up his victims, often young men and boys, and take them home. There, in the privacy of his own space, he would end their lives. But for Patrick, the act didn't end with death. He would then dismember their bodies with a chilling, surgical precision. He placed the pieces into black trash bags, the kind you see on any street corner, and then drove out to the lonely highways, deserted roads, and empty fields of Southern California. Under the cover of darkness, he would toss them out, scattering the evidence of his terrible work across the landscape. Morning would come, and commuters or passers-by would stumble upon a scene of pure horror. Hidden in plain sight, police were baffled. There were no fingerprints, no witnesses, only fear. A growing cloud of it that began to settle over the entire region. Patrick Kearney lived a perfect double life. By day, he was calm, polite, and friendly. He held a steady job as an electronics engineer. He was the kind of neighbor you'd nod to, maybe even share a brief, pleasant chat with. No one would ever suspect the chilling secret he harbored. But at night, he transformed. He became a cold, surgical predator, utterly emotionless in his deadly work. He preferred what he later called clean kills. No noise, no mess, no mistakes. Everything was about control. For years, the police were completely blind. They had a series of brutal, unsolved murders, but no leads, no patterns they could decipher, and certainly no suspect who fit the profile. No one ever looked twice at the quiet man who smiled at his neighbors as if nothing in the world was wrong while the bodies continued to pile up. The years 1975 and 1976 marked a terrifying escalation. The number of bodies discovered along California's freeways exploded. A wave of fear spread through communities as the media began to connect the gruesome discoveries. Patrick's hunger was growing, becoming more ravenous, more reckless. He hunted those on the fringes of society, hitchhikers, runaways, lonely travelers, people who wouldn't be missed immediately, giving him time to cover his tracks. His victims were almost exclusively young men. Some of their bodies were never found. Some were discovered only as fragments, leaving behind a legacy of nightmares for their families and the investigators on the case, with the mounting body count and the consistent, horrifying signature of his crimes. The police and the press finally gave the Phantom Killer a name. They called him the Trash Bag Killer, because every single murder ended with the same chilling calling card. Black trash bag filled with terror. Patrick was meticulous, almost pathologically careful. But even the most cunning monsters eventually make a mistake. His downfall began not with a high-tech investigation, but with simple human connection. One of his last victims had told friends where he was going and who he was meeting. When he vanished, his friends didn't wait. They went to the police immediately. This time, investigators had a name to work with: Patrick Kearney. pieces of the puzzle began to snap into place. Detectives connected the dots between the victim's disappearance and the quiet engineer. They started watching him, tracking his movements, and slowly the trap began to tighten around him. Patrick, ever cautious, sensed the change. He felt the eyes on him, the net closing in. He tried to flee to escape the fate that was now racing to catch him. But it was too late. His reign of terror was about to come to an end. When the police finally brought him in for questioning, Patrick did something no one expected. There was no denial, no struggle, no attempt to lie his way out. He confessed. He did so calmly, coldly, with a detached air, as if he were recalling simple memories from a distant past. He told them, "I've killed many times," and then the floodgates opened for hours. He described every single detail of his crimes, each murder, each victim. Each moment of horror was recounted with chilling precision. He led them to remains they hadn't found and connected himself to cases they hadn't solved. The confession shocked even the most hardened detectives. They weren't just listening to a killer, they were getting a guided tour through the mind of a monster. Patrick Wayne Kearney was sentenced to life in prison, avoiding the death penalty by cooperating and confessing to the full extent of his crimes. To this day, he remains behind concrete walls, an old man now. He is described as he always was, silent, calm, unassuming, the same placid exterior he wore before every kill. But the story doesn't end there. The horror he created lingers. Every night falls over the highways of Southern California. Some people still remember the quiet man who smiled by day and packed death inside trash bags by night. This was the story of Patrick Wayne Kearney, the trash bag killer. A man with a friendly face and a soul darker than midnight. Thank you for watching. If you found this story compelling, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into the darkest corners of history. Stay safe out there.